I'm also sharing it on my Facebook now.
I'm recording on my end.
Okay. On your end of Facebook or on your computer?
Yeah, on my computer. So I could upload it afterwards to Dropbox and send you a link.
Now it's recording, it says.
Also record it just in case.
All right. We have some others joining us. We'll get started just momentarily. I'm waiting to see.
Abby, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah.
I hear someone softly.
Can you hear me now? It's Bev.
Oh yes, just a little bit.
Okay. Christian cannot come, so he just texted or emailed, just so that you know.
All right. All right.
What are you doing, Joseph?
Just here to listen and take notes.
You're like, what?
All right.
Hi, Bev.
Hi, Sharon. How are you?
A long time.
Oh,
I said I haven't seen you in a long time.
haven't seen you either. Look at you. You're in your office.
Yes. Hang on. I got to try to fix this thing.
Okay.
The good old Zoom call.
Yes.
Try to make you not look like so. Okay, is that better? That's better. Then I'm not like, ooh.
All right.
Like you have a hair.
Now I have dark hair.
That's what
I did it
will
myself.
do.
I did it myself. It's like, wow, it said medium brown, but that looks pretty darn black.
I like that.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm glad that you're able to join us today on the Fullerton Collaborative General Meeting. And as a reminder, I'm going to be watching and keeping people on mute, as I know things happen on Zoom unexpectedly that we want to also account for. So I will be just monitoring that as well. And today, I just really want to highlight our work and highlight what wonderful support that we have in our city and also in our state right now that's going on and how we can support them. I also want to just basic etiquette, just making sure that we, if you have questions, please feel free to use the chat. I've enabled that, and I will be monitoring that for Leanna as she's facilitating the two speakers that we have today. And we'll start with Leanna. She's the board chair of the collaborative.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so happy I could be here today with all of you and see all of you. Very exciting to see you. Yes, my name is Leanna Furcucci. I'm the board chair of the Fullerton Collaborative, and I'm also co-owner of CF Dance Academy and the Classic Fullerton Ballroom in downtown Fullerton. And so today, I have been, Jennifer, been going to your town halls and enjoying those very much. They've been very informative for me, and it's very glad that our board was in support of this format for this meeting this month, so we can hear directly from you, our leaders, locally, and for our local government leaders to really guide us in this time, because I know how much it's meant to me and how much I've relied on it. So I am so happy that we're able to do this for our members today, because I know how much it's helped me having you as resources during this time. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and start with Sharon. I'm going to just give a quick bio. I know all of us mostly know who you are, but just for all of our people watching live on Facebook, Sharon Quirk-Silva represents the 65th Assembly District in the California State Assembly. She was first elected to serve in the Assembly in 2012. In 2016, she was again elected to serve the constituents of North Orange County again. In 2018, She was reelected to serve the communities of Anaheim, Buena Park, Cypress, Fullerton, Garden Grove, La Palma, and Stanton. Assemblywoman Quirk-Silva is also a proud mother, teacher, and former mayor of Fullerton. So I am going to turn it over to you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me and see me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, if there is any positive out of this COVID-19, it would be, I think, using these Zoom calls to a certain extent, to just in the sense that I have not been able to really participate in activities from Monday through Thursday when we're in session. And I think I'm hoping that people will continue to use Zoom in some respects in the new normal. I know for weddings and things, I don't think anybody ever thought of Zooming into a wedding, but maybe if we get back to a new normal, people will do both, have the wedding and have a Zoom function so more people can join. But certainly is a different way to communicate. And we have done many Zoom calls. I just wanted to update you that we have been doing what we call critical calls. And as many of you have participated in Zoom calls, but really trying to not only participate in some of the very regular updates from the county, from the state, from the emergency operations. Many calls are scheduled almost daily that my staff participates in. Of course, there's the regular governor update, but we also have caucus calls from the state to different groups. For example, the Women's Caucus has been on a conference or a Zoom call with the governor. The Latino Caucus has been on a caucus call with the governor. I am now part of what a Childcare small group working with the governor on childcare. So I'll just go through a few of the things that I've seen that might not be out there, but most of the information is coming down almost daily. So an example is some of our critical calls are checking in with superintendents, checking in with our public safety, police and fire, and the county sheriff, checking in with our city managers, and really finding out what's actually happening. Are they getting access to any of the things that small business that has been put out there, whether it be the PPU and so forth. And all of the conversations, the information is basically mixed. Things are coming out slowly, particularly for businesses. Many people have had to try many times. We're kind of finding the spot for particularly the very small businesses, kind of your micro businesses with maybe 30 people and under. It's almost working very closely with your lender. That's what we're finding, because some of the major lenders already know the process and, you know, have a lot of access. It's the small businesses with the maybe sometimes small businesses are even using their own bank account, so they don't have that relationship with their lender that other larger corporations might have. I know Jennifer will talk about some of that. We did have a small business, and Amy is on this call, so if you are having, even downtown Fullerton, we've had some of the people there that are trying to keep their businesses up, some different links, because one of the things is the federal stimulus package, but there's also what we've had before that a lot of people didn't even know about, which is right there at Cal State Fullerton, you have the Small Business Association, and they will literally step by step walk businesses through. They don't have a wand, they can't just get money to them immediately, but they can help do things like walk them through the steps as far as contacting their lender, things like that. There's also what they call an iBank, and that's in the state of California. That's been operating before, and those funds are smaller funds, but 10,000 to 50,000. So you're not talking, you know, millions of dollars, but we have the links for that and to contact, and we can help navigate people through that. So Amy can make sure that all of that information gets to you. And then the California state has what they call the Go Biz website, Go, G-O, and Biz, B-I-Z. And there is, even before COVID-19, lots of drop-down menus on how to access some of this iBank and so forth. So again, please look for Amy to send that information to you. On the child care, one of the things that we know is for people to get back to work, they have to feel confident that whether it's their own child care provider, family, whoever it is, that they need to take care of their child. First of all, are they open? Second of all, are they safe? And third, if neither of those things are happening, what is it going to look like in the future? And those are all conversations that we are having. Some of you might have seen the governor come out, and one of his spokespersons talked about, well, when we start public school back, it'll be small groups. And I kind of cringed a little bit because being a former teacher, there's two things I know. One is the classrooms are not going to be a bigger classroom. That same classroom is going to be used. And two, they're not going to be smaller classroom sizes, because that would cost a lot of money, and everybody's going to be really struggling. So to really have them communicate to the parents in the state of California, not what is in theory that they want to happen, but what the reality would look like. So I said, you know, if you go to parents and tell them, well, we're going to start school, but everything's going to be done in small groups, that's what should be done now anyhow, but it's not, the other kids are not going to be out of the classroom. So those are the kind of things they have to be realistic about. I said probably one of the best things you can do is get hand washing stations out to those schools, because some of the schools don't even have, portables don't have sinks in their classroom, and you're not going to have third graders washing their hands out of the water cooler. So we're working on that, trying to get them to let the local school districts make as many decisions as they can, and support at the state things like the PPE. I also think, and again, you can chime in on this one, it's just my personal opinion, I think it might be very, very difficult to have K through 12 kids wearing PPE and trying to figure out how to keep that from being contaminated, and masks all over and gloves all over, we see in the parking lots now. But if you feel different about that, please let me know, or chime in, because just to see adults with that, I'm wondering if that's gonna make it even harder, and then who's gonna pay for that. So that's on the child care, but probably the biggest thing is, when do we think the things might get back to normal? So if you wanna sit back before you fall off your chair, if you haven't read it already, we are looking at a $55 billion deficit. The governor will be discussing his May revise on, I believe, this Friday. And as I said, we've had these caucus calls, and we say, well, childcare is really important to us, or trying to get funding for healthcare. We know hospitals, even though we say we have, you know, this issue with COVID-19, why would we be closing hospitals or laying off nurses? It's a dollar and cents issues. And he kind of looks at everybody blindly and just says, when you hear the numbers, it's not going to be about, are any of these issues important? It's going to be about, how do we make our way through what is probably the worst economic downturn, the deepest, and what are the priorities going to be? And, you know, so he hasn't disagreed with a lot of the statements, whether schools need to be made whole, whether it be childcare, you know, trying to get more relief for small businesses and cities, of course. But is there going to be some kind of rescue wagon happening? And I know Jennifer's on the phone, and she's going to probably start throwing darts. There is no rescue coming. I mean, and I might be overly blunt by saying this, but I have been on calls related to nonprofits, related to, and I just, from what I can see in here, we are headed for some very, very deep cuts. And that does not only include the state, but I'm sure counties, cities have already started, school districts. And if those cuts don't come as deep as to somehow get a balance here, there's going to be other hard choices, and nobody's going to like any of them. So you might say, well, we can't lay off our teachers we just brought back, you know, school. Well, do you want to raise taxes? So again, I'm not proposing that, and I don't even support it. I'm just saying that's where we're at. And I don't really even want to get into all the politics of it. It's just 55 billion when we started the January with about a $6 billion, if you want to say, budget that looked pretty promising. So what it looks like for me up here as a legislator is we've been asked to cut pretty much every single piece of legislation we're doing. We started out with about 30 bills. We are down to 3. And the 3 that we have to do with mental health, have to do with a mobile home that we were working on because of Fullerton and Anaheim, some mobile home relief, because we know that if we thought the homeless people experiencing homelessness was tough before this, it's going to be much deeper and much tougher as of now. And there has been no relief, obviously, since this has started. It's, you know, it's not just with the COVID, but there's people dying every day on the streets of Orange County. And this is going to be deeper. Families, the rent moratorium and mortgage moratorium, all of those are moratoriums. They are not programs where there will be, that will just be wiped away. People are expected to pay that. And how they will do that, we know that the apartment association, we know that the real estate people have been generally pretty favorable to have a moratorium, but in no way do they support extending it. In no way do they support somehow getting waivers just not to pay it. So we're kind of in the looking at May 31st as when that 2-month or 60-day moratorium comes to pass, or if you want to say June 1st. We have some major issues that will be affecting families. I know some of you are part of food distribution. I see Dave there. I see some of the other people from some of the solidarity and different groups, and I've been out at some of those. Those lines are long, and some of them are going on for 2 to 3 hours with cars winding different streets, and basically they're in line for a bag of groceries. So I wish I could really deliver some more positive news. I just think that for anybody who's running an institution, a nonprofit, a business, being as innovative, creative, joining together, sharing spaces, none of this is what we want to hear. I 100% guarantee that. So maybe I'll stop talking and see what kind of specific questions you have.
Does anybody have any questions?
I don't see any currently in the chat box. But Bev has a question.
I have a question. Can you guys hear me okay? It's more regarding the rainy day funds. You know, we had been saving for these rainy day funds in both the general budget as well as education budget. At this point, is that $55 billion deficit including, is it taking that into account, and can we use that at all?
Yes, we will definitely be using that rainy day fund. There was close to 20 billion in that. And that 20 billion in essence will be used, maybe a small percentage will be saved for yet another pandemic. No, I'm joking. Actually, it's not funny. But yes, that is included, and that is in many ways will make this a little less painful, but you can see how deep it is. And you know, the schools, I know schools and cities have their rainy day funds, and this would be the time. I know that Jennifer will probably talk about them using some of their rainy day fund, but many people don't have that, particular individuals. You know, we always say families can be one paycheck away from, you know, not paying the rent, and we're certainly seeing that now. But yes, and some of the details will be presented, like we said, this Friday. We don't even know all of them, but some of you who are in the business of following the state, I'm sure will be reading very deeply into those pages. I think one of the big unknowns is for all students, whether they be pre-K all the way up to college, what is that return going to look like? Across the state, there's been different, some college presidents are saying we expect our students to return in 8 weeks. Others are still very much on the fence. Others are, you know, we're just going to plan for at least the fall semester to be online and maybe adjust as they go on. So I don't think there is a consensus there. And same thing with K-12. I know there was some discussion about, well, maybe there'll be summer school. Well, right now we already know for people who are in education, if that's not being planned, it's not happening. And then the next part is, would there be a possibility to start school early? And that's pretty much been taken off the table, because again, you would have to be, you know, right now preparing to do a lot of work to have, say, a school open by the middle of July. So from what I can see, they are looking towards whatever would be the start date of the new school year. So some are in the middle of August, some earlier, and some a little bit later. But we'll see how that goes. But I do not believe there's going to be a lot of summer school, if any, and I do not believe there'll be any early school year starts for K-12.
All right, and there's 2 questions for you, Sharon. One is, what is the likelihood of Congress passing aid to states and cities?
I think that they could go back and do, we've heard talks about a third type of package. The first one, I think, did get to various corporations. I think there was some confusion of what was the amount of employees, what was going to go larger or small. Then they passed the second care package, and that does look like it's been more effective getting to the smaller. But we have micro businesses where somebody might be an independent worker. You might have somebody who has 2 or 3 employees. And so we know that many of those employees haven't seen relief. I think with Jennifer we'll talk. I know Buena Park, which is part of my district, they are doing $10,000 grants to up to 50 small businesses. So I think there's cities, and I'm hoping Jennifer can talk about this, because to be honest, I really don't know exactly how this was supposed to be laid out. The county received about $550 million from the federal government. We were told that some of that money should be passed from the county to the cities, but I'll let Jennifer talk about that, because she might know a little bit more, or maybe I heard that wrong. But I thought that some of that money was supposed to go to the cities as well. But there still are, and this is what we don't know, which is if there's been money allotted to various programs, safety net programs, that is allotted on an annual basis, will that change as far as them sweeping it up into other piles? So for example, and this is not for everything I say could be taken out of context, but for example, there's money allotted for Coyote Hills and Fullerton, $15 million. It hasn't been brought down yet because they're waiting for last final vote from the Coastal Conservancy. But would they, in this type of budget, look at saying, no, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to, any money not used, we're going to pull it back into, say, a general fund. We have not heard any of that. So that is really good. I mean, depending on who you are, it's good in the sense that if you were planning on a project, it should still be going on. But there's a lot of housing dollars, and aside from COVID, so cities or organizations should continue to apply as if the money is there, and we will continue to press to see if there's any indicators that that could change. I don't think they want to start a complete, meltdown, although that's where we're at.
Okay. Thanks, Sharon. I'm going to go ahead. We're going to, because of time, move on to Jennifer. Leanna, if you want to introduce Jennifer. There is one more question in the chat room, Sharon, so if you see that one, if you have a moment to be able to answer that. Leanna?
Great. So next we have our mayor, Jennifer Fitzgerald. She was elected to Fullerton City Council in November of 2012 and served as mayor pro tem in 2014-2015 and mayor in 2015-2016. Mayor Fitzgerald represents the city of Fullerton on the board of directors for the Association of California Cities, Orange County chapter, and she is a member of the board of directors of the Orange County Taxpayers Association. She previously served for the city of Fullerton on its planning commission and the general plan advisory committee. So thank you so much for joining us today, Jennifer.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great to be with all of you and with Assemblywoman Quirk-Silva. Thanks, Leanna, for what you said about the town halls. It does seem that, I mean, even though I don't have a lot of the answers, that it seems to, you know, that people just want to be heard and they just want to, they actually want somebody to say, look, I don't have all the answers, but I want to talk with you about it and let you know what we're thinking. And that's just, that's really the purpose of those town halls, so that people, that those of us at the city understand what other people are going through, that we're going through a lot of the same things. And to let people know, and I want to let you know that we at, you know, from City Hall are planning for our city reopening. In fact, today, City Hall for the first day is open on a limited basis. You can make appointments. Things that can't be done online that you need to come in for, you now can. And we opened the parking lots of our parks this weekend. If it's not already open, we're opening back the Pine Forest staircase with one-way signs as well. And I'm hopeful over the next week or so, we'll have our play structures at our parks open again. That's contingent on us making sure that we've got the sanitation necessary to do that. Our restrooms at parks are already open, but we'll have to do enhanced cleaning of the play structures. So that's taking a little longer. As well as signage for people using those play structures. But we know that people need to get out, they need to get fresh air, and their kids need to play. So that is one thing we're doing, but I find that it's, you know, super important for people to understand that the city is planning its reopening and starting to institute slowly its reopening. And we're encouraging all organizations, whether you're businesses or nonprofits, to get your reopening plan together as well. What does it look like in the COVID world for you to reopen and start providing services again? And we have guidelines that we have put out for organizations as the governor gets closer to allowing a full phase 2 opening. So I will say that most people have been confused by mixed messages that they've heard from the governor's office, from the county. Then they look to the city to see what the city is doing. I want you to know that city managers and mayors all across Orange County are working on even a daily basis together to try to assimilate the different messages, make sense of them, and then disseminate consistent information across Orange County. We're trying desperately to do it. It's really tough, I'll just say. It's really tough. But we are trying. And then a lot of cities are doing exactly what Fullerton is trying to do as well. We are doing everything we can with the limited power that we have to make it safe and healthy and easier for people to get back to work and for people to get back to service. So a couple things I want you to know that we've done. Councilmember Ahmad Zara encouraged us to create an economic recovery ad hoc committee. And so he and I have set that up, and we've had one meeting so far. Representatives from various businesses, healthcare agencies, nonprofits are on that. We anticipate that we'll meet over the next 6 months. That's kind of what we're prepared to do right now on a weekly basis, to talk about what are good ideas, what are concerns, what communication needs to get out about reopening here in Fullerton. So we really want to help support our business and service community as much as we can in getting our local economy and human services kickstarted. So we immediately, when we were shut down, the city set up business support sites. We set up a website called dinefullerton.com. We're expanding that now. If it's not live, it should be soon. Buyinfullerton.com. We have hosted various town halls, which Leanna spoke of, but also meetings with the business community, with the nonprofit sector like this, so we could just talk and hear each other and see what people needed out there. And then we've also hosted with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce information from SBDC, which is the Small Business Development Corporation. Is that right? I don't know. Sorry. SBDC, Small Business Help from the feds, to figure out what resources are available. We did that in Spanish. We figured out through this how to expand the number of languages that the information, the communication that we're putting out is given in, so that we can talk to everyone in their own languages. I want to tell you a couple things that the City Council did last week, and another one that we're looking to do on May 19th. We deferred development impact fees that developers need to pay the city. Usually when you're doing, let's say, a housing development, you have to pay about $11,000 in park fees when you pull your first permits to start constructing. So in order to make sure that development doesn't slow down in town, we have now deferred those payments until you get your certificate of completion. So from the beginning of the project to the end of the project. And then we also unanimously approved variation to our outdoor dining guidelines to allow retailers and restaurants to utilize the public right-of-way. So to utilize sidewalks and parking lots, basically, as part of their business delivery model. So let's say you have an antique store, who's saying, look, curbside pickup. I mean, that's nothing. People come in and browse. They see what they want. We're inviting those retail businesses to come out on the sidewalk and let people see what you've got, have an interaction where you can tell that owner then what you're looking for. They can go back in the store and show you, those items, allowing businesses, right now during takeout, to have an opportunity for people to get their takeout and perhaps eat it there. When dine-in is allowed, I anticipate that this will enable a lot of restaurants that might not open because only having 50% of their occupancy allowed is not going to allow them to keep their business. If they can set up tables and chairs on the sidewalks and in the parking lots to accommodate, then they're going to be able to, stay in business. So that's just another way we're trying to be really creative with trying to help those businesses. And then at the May 19th City Council meeting, we're proposing a small business loan program that would be funded through our CDBG funds. small CD, small development, community development block grants. And that would be those microloans that the Assemblywoman, was talking about. We've also, I want you to know, have done some other things. We've created a Kids Art to Go program where the first 100 people every Wednesday who go to the museum center can get free art kits to go for kids. The community center has partnered with Meals on Wheels and Second Harvest Food Bank to provide meals to seniors. Other nonprofits in town have done the same thing, like OC United's Senior Buddy program to provide groceries once a week to housebound seniors. And we've been doing grocery box distribution, also senior wellness checks. Seniors can actually sign up for our Well Check program by calling 714-738-6575. And I would just ask you, we're in a real budget problem. We just started our budget process and we're looking at a $9 million deficit. We can use $3 million of our reserves. So that leaves $6 million of cuts. And the decision, if there's no rescue wagon, as the Assemblywoman put it, the cuts are going to be heart-wrenching and deep. And unfortunately, I think in the human services areas. So the people who most need services like after-school programs and Parks and Rec programs, the library, the museum, all of those are going to have severe cuts. We immediately laid off 153 employees in Fullerton, and those were really all our part-time, non-regular employees. And as you know, most of them were providing the programs through Parks and Recreation that so many kids depend on. So and even using $3 million in reserves this year, we look to have to use more reserves in the following years. We run out of reserves here in Fullerton 2025. It's not too far away. And so we're trying to be as completely responsible, fiscally, conservative as possible. This city runs lean. We've already been running this city on a close to a 20% vacancy rate among our employees. And you can see that, I know, when you're driving along and the medians are not landscaped like they should be. The park trash cans are not emptied as much as they should be. You can already see a deficiency in service. And as it stands now, we're going to be very hard pressed to do anything different with that. So there's a real commitment from the City Council to be as creative and innovative as possible. I will just tell all of you who are at the heart of human services in Fullerton that there will be a real opportunity for you to expand your services into communities because of what I think will be a likely gap of government services. And I'm hopeful and optimistic that we'll look at it as an opportunity to strengthen the public-private partnerships that we already have. I'm not one who thinks government should do everything for everyone. You are all the people who are mission-driven to improve opportunity and lives. And now is going to really be your time to shine. And what I can say is that I know that this City Council wants to be as supportive as possible in that effort. And I say that knowing that all of your budgets are struggling and that you may be, fighting for your organization right now too. But Fullerton's a fantastic community, and we're going to figure out together how to get through this.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really appreciate all that you said. There's a couple of questions here. One was, how do we access the opening plan guidelines? I'm assuming that's for you, Jennifer?
So I would suggest that you go to our website, cityofFullerton.com/COVID. And also, I know Antonia Graham, our assistant city manager, is on the call, so maybe she can put in the chat function as well. If there is a specific posting of the business guidelines, I assume we've put that up, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, all right. And you also mentioned about the buy in Fullerton, which is exciting. Is there any consideration of possibly adding a donate in Fullerton? So donate to business or nonprofits that serve Fullerton residents.
I love it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
I also think, you know, I was in, I had seen in Orange, they have started this, their community foundation has started a program where you can buy these wooden oranges that are on a stake that you put in your yard, and they say different things like "We love orange" or "Orange strong." You know, they have different positive messages, and their residents can purchase those signs to put in their yards or at their businesses, and the proceeds go to a couple charities in town. So I think we should totally steal their idea and do something like that, because there are a lot of people in town who would love the opportunity to do good and to do well by supporting all of you. So I think we should figure out how to do something like that too.
Okay. Great. Yeah, we had some people that have had the signs. They raised over 20,000. Says 2025 is 5 years away, while a vaccine is a year, maybe 18 months away. Perhaps we should be tapping the rainy day fund at a rate that would have it run out in 3 years rather than 5. So the question is, what would be the point of going slow now, especially if after-school programs would be cut, eliminated if we do not do this?
It's a good question, and as we look to, you know, form our budget, then those are questions I think that need to be asked for us to consider.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Any other questions that we have? Not seeing any in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised.
Sharon.
Debbie, Sharon's got a question.
Okay, Sharon. Oh, hold on, let's unmute you. There you go.
Okay, to Jennifer, did she, or do you have any specific information on what the county's going to do with the $550 million in stimulus?
Oh, yeah, you asked about that. Thanks, Sharon, for the reminder. So all 34 Orange County mayors signed on to a letter asking the county to give us, each city, per capita share of a portion of that funding. And we were turned down. We continue, as do our city managers, continue to talk to the county CEO about getting an allocation of that funding. The county is amenable to filling in the gap. They are amenable to talking about filling in the gap that is FEMA replacement funding. So we declared a local state of emergency, and then we've been keeping meticulous track of all the expenses related to COVID. And we are able to turn those expenses into FEMA for a partial reimbursement. And so the county is talking about that, that they might be able to fill some of the gaps that are created with the discrepancy between the amount at which FEMA reimburses us and what we actually expended. So I think the city of Fullerton is at or just over $750,000 in expenses that are specifically COVID related. So we'll be looking for that. But no, I mean, and I started a coalition of mayors throughout California as well. We've got about 50 mayors on board from across California so far. And we have 5 points that we're advocating for. Is for this, for the state and the counties to provide a portion of the funding that they've received to cities for, COVID related expenses. The funding that came to the state and counties went only to communities of over 500,000 population. That was only 6 cities in the entire state, leaving about 475 or so cities that got no direct funding, but yet all have direct expenses. So we're working on that. And then I have been working closely with Congressman Gil Cisneros, our congressman, as well as other members of the California delegation who are pushing a phase 4 of the CARES Act that would provide direct funding to cities over 50,000 population. The funding would be 2 years of funding to include replacement revenue costs. I mean, those are the biggest hits, right? So we've got about $750,000 in direct expenses, but then we've lost 30% of our TOT tax, our transit occupancy tax that you get from hotels and motels. We've lost 30% of our sales tax. The governor has deferred the collection of sales tax from certain small businesses for the next year. So that's a next hit for the next year for us. So it's all of those kinds of revenue, a lot of which we will never see again. And I mean, think about like the city of Anaheim, their TOT tax, right? Their hotel tax funds, I think, about 1/3 of their entire budget. So with Disneyland's, potentially not opening back up, and that's Orange County's largest employer, remember, those folks are without jobs potentially for the next year, and those hotels are without patrons potentially for the next year. So, I mean, the city of Costa Mesa, I think 1/3 of its budget comes from South Coast Plaza. Santa Ana is estimating, a $20 million hit to their general fund just until June this year. So,
and Buena Park is not going to be opening knots till probably maybe the first of the year, and that's a major sales tax for them. And then also just the gas tax, which, we had that conversation for the last handful of years, and now that gas tax is way down because people aren't driving, whether it be to work or really anywhere else. So there's some major impacts. And then you think about Cal State Fullerton in Fullerton, and with all the students that left early but would be moving in over the summer or August. And again, depending on what the school decides to do there, you may have a lot of rentals that are open that typically wouldn't be open. So just so many impacts, but we really haven't, unless there's somebody on that can share. One of the things that has been a little bit interesting is the housing market to buy. If you've noticed, of course, there's not a lot up, but prices aren't also dropping either. So it'll be interesting to watch it in the next, over the summer, as some people have homes that maybe they've held on to, a family home that could start coming up on the market just because now they need to move on these properties instead of to hold on to them. But I know that my daughter, who's 30, has been looking in the market in kind of the Raymond neighborhood, and there's some things up, prices aren't dropping, and unless somebody else has something to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, people need jobs, right? You know it. I mean, just like I see it, people need jobs, and kids need to go back to school, and we need to figure out a safe and healthy way to live life. So.
Absolutely.
Bev, can I ask her, Bev, what would you do if you were able to talk directly to the governor's people about getting kids back to campus, and would be like kind of the primary that you would ask for?
Other than money?
Well, money, but I mean, just on the campus to somewhat make parents feel, you know, somewhat safe, and do whatever it is we feel that we have to do to keep. I mean, I saw something in China where they have about 10 stages before the kids even get into the classroom, and it looks incredible, but I'm thinking it'd probably take 2 hours to get kids into the seat by the time you go through all, you know, I'm exaggerating, but what do you think?
Well, I think that having some direction from the governor's office would be incredible at this moment, because, you know, we as districts, are coming up with 3 or 4 plans on reopening. And so waiting for them to come back to say, okay, this is exactly what you need. I think your point about hand washing stations is big. We know that we are not going to be able to put 30 kids in a classroom if they have to have physical distancing. That's not going to work. And we know that we're not going to be able to bring in, portables to be able to do the overflow along with teachers. I think that childcare is huge. I'm glad that you're on that committee, because I believe that if we have to stagger start times or block, different days of the week for kids coming to school, that's going to cause issues for our parents, because they have childcare issues. If my children are going in the morning, what am I doing with them in the afternoon? And I can't really have on-site childcare right now, because if you're using that entire site for the school day, having those extra kids on campus, maybe we can work that out somehow. But again, I think a lot of this comes with some extra funding for childcare. So if they were able to allow school districts to help with that, we could probably come up with some kind of creative plan. I'm not sure, but we're pretty innovative. Helene, do you have anything to add to that? I see you there, since we are being given an opportunity to ask for anything right this second.
I think you covered it, Bev. I don't have anything additional to share, so thank you for your insights.
Well, that might be a perfect segue, as we need to kind of wrap up our conversation before we run out of time. We have a couple business items that we have to take care of, and I know everybody's time is precious and has other things to move on to. But we wanted to real quick give you some very simple updates with our committees. So we're going to go ahead and move forward with that really quick, and then we just have a vote that we need to do for our board slate for the next upcoming year. So
just one little comment. This is Paulette Chafee. I know that First 5 Orange County is really pushing for extra money for childcare at school sites. Also, the YMCAs and the Boys and Girls Clubs are really pushing forward to creating some child care sites, because it's going to be a huge need, and it's a huge push for money for that, because it's absolutely essential. And I know my husband Doug is working on that, and he is part of the First 5 Orange County, which also works with First 5 State of California. And it very much helps that Governor Newsom is a parent. He really understands. So we can all push together for more money. Thank you.
So who would like to give our first committee update? Deb,
I was going to have Barry go first.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm going to be talking about Moonlight Healthy, but just to give you an update from the hospital, the good news is Orange County's rate of COVID has been much lower than most other large counties in the state. You know, for the last 2 weeks, the hospitals had between 15 and 18 COVID positive patients, and over the weekend we've had 8. So the numbers are going down, and that's what we want to see, but they're going down because people are continuing to social distance, and we don't know what's going to happen as we open up. You know, from the hospital side, we want to thank everybody. The community's been really supportive in donating food to our staff. We've had car parades showing appreciation. It's been really great. The hospitals reopened our elective surgeries, our outpatient services. We lost a lot of revenue in March and April because the surge didn't happen, and so now we're hoping we can make that up. The county is opening up more community testing sites, and St. Jude Neighborhood Health Center in Richmond Park will be one of those sites. It will be opening up hopefully later this week, but we do not know yet what the eligibility criteria are. It's not going to be a walk-up. As far as we know, it will be by appointment, but we don't know yet what the criteria will be, so I will let you know. In terms of Move More Eat Healthy, we pretty much moved everything virtually, and the good news is we have classes online 6 days a week, and I will send out to Deborah the calendars, but they include Zumba, mindful moments, fitness, and pound exercise. So it's really important for the community to stay healthy and exercise because that also relieves stress, and we know people are under a lot of stress. So that's my update.
Great.
Thank you so much, Barry. Jason, can we have you go next?
Not much to say other than there's been a lot of great collaboration going on between all the agencies in the city and churches and the nonprofits, pathways. I don't know if David's still on, but they're been getting some money trying to try and deal with preemptive homelessness work, since a lot of people don't have their funding from working, and so paying rent, buying groceries, all that becomes difficult. But yeah, we are seeing a huge surge in grocery and food needs, but also, you know, Second Harvest and all the normal givers don't have more, so we're having to supplement that with other creative ways. So that's about it. I mean, Pathways has been great. They've been helpful for really all of us as new people are trying to figure out how to distribute groceries in their community. And so they've helped tremendous in all that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jason. Would we have next for Next Gen, Bev?
Yeah, I'll speak for Next Gen. We had our virtual community meeting. Again, we're kind of waiting to see what's happening and what's opening. I think that for us, one of the big aha moments or the things that we wanted to talk about was our teens and the fact that mental health issues are huge right now. It's the socio-emotional needs of our kids that we really need to pay attention to, and just providing them with the tools and the services that they need is going to be something that we really need to focus on. I think that was one of the biggest things we talked about. We have a relationship with Al Rodriguez, who is at the city of La Habra, and what he is doing, he's the employment and training manager there, and he's collaborating with us to be able to provide our youth with virtual job skills classes, maybe some independent living skills, some resume building, possibly even some mock interviews. So we're really starting to look at that and utilize those services. He's also able to help our youth connect with job opportunities and set up maybe some connections for them to have some interviews. We had planned to do our job fair, but unfortunately that got canceled. So I think we're talking about partnering maybe with Fullerton College as to a virtual job fair and maybe going forward with something like that. We're also talking about doing Zoom classes. So how do you do an interview on Zoom? How do you build a resume? And so starting to really focus on who can we get, what would a lineup look like, and how can we still provide services to our next gen youth who really are still needing that. So I think that's what we had from our meeting. Am I missing anything?
No, probably the only thing that came up from that meeting that was that the job placement for the youth, they're finding that through this, that they've been able to connect with their teens easier with Zoom. So that's probably something they're going to be adapting into their regular operations instead of having to try to get a teen, get transportation to the place to get to the meeting. They're able to connect with their teens better with this platform. So that was a little positive that we liked hearing. So.
And he did say that if a teen didn't have access, that his office, they could make an appointment and go into his office and actually have access. So he was being very open about that as well.
Is Marilee still here for our education update? I know she was here, Bev, but I'm not seeing her on right now. Or Deborah.
I don't either. And she was just going to invite everyone to join us at our coffee break, which will be next week on Tuesday the 19th at 10 a.m. And we'll be streaming it live on Facebook and also via our Zoom. So if you're part of the committee or if you want that Zoom link, please reach out to me and I will make sure that you have that. We do have our partnership going on with our school district. And Helene, did you have anything else to add?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm so sorry, but we are doing our vote next month, not today. So I got that mixed up. So unless anybody has any other announcements that they would like to share, I don't know if anybody has any updates or announcements from their organizations.
You could put them in the chat box. There is a bunch that is coming up there. I do want to make sure that you do look at them. Zoop shared about some COVID-19 resources for nonprofits and an updated organization and also opportunity for us. There's some wonderful items. I do have a question for Barry about hospitalizations. So I don't know if you're able to see that chat. And he did respond, so that's good. And I think that's all I have, Leanna.
Yeah, I think so too. If nobody has anything else to share, it was fantastic seeing all of you today and getting to be able to connect and communicate and get updates from everybody has been very, very helpful for me. And I hope for all of everybody out there watching on Facebook too. Great. So, and thank you again to our Assemblywoman and our mayor for joining. We appreciate it very, very much.
And Jennifer, I appreciate your comments in the chat room about encouraging us to increase the public-private partnerships. Thank you for that. Something to think about.
Now we just have to find somebody to be in charge of the lawn signs, right? She's like, okay. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, Harry.